Shedeur Sanders is the most polarizing prospect in the 2025 NFL Draft. I would be shocked if anyone felt differently. He's the son of a Hall of Famer, just benefited from playing with a Heisman Trophy winner, and would instantly sell jerseys wherever he goes. But does all of that mean that he's worthy of a first-round pick? Well, maybe not. But no matter where he gets drafted or what team takes him, he's going to be a hell of a lot of fun to watch in the NFL. Shedeur Sanders is obviously the son of Deion Sanders, who not only is a Hall of Fame cornerback, two-time Super Bowl champ, former MLB player who played in a World Series, but he's also coached Shedeur and his brother Shiloh at multiple levels. Deion was the offensive coordinator at Trinity Christian School in Cedar Hill, Texas, where Shedeur was the starting quarterback. As a senior, Shedeur passed for 3,702 yards and 42 touchdowns. He was rated a 3-star recruit and did initially commit to play at Florida Atlantic. But of course, he didn't end up going to FAU. He flipped to Jackson State, an HBCU in the SWAC at the FCS level, after his dad was named the head coach. So kinda hard to blame him there. Shedeur Sanders was the starting quarterback at Jackson State as a freshman in the fall 2021 season. It was a bit weird because they did end up playing a spring 2021 season because it got delayed from the fall because of COVID, but Shedeur wasn't eligible to play. Jackson State ultimately went 4-3 in the abbreviated season. But once Shedeur was able to play, he was ready to go. He ended up passing for 3,231 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. Shedeur was the SWAC Freshman of the Year, second team All-SWAC, and won the Jerry Rice Award as the most outstanding freshman in the FCS, making him the first player to ever win it at an HBCU. Then as a sophomore, he threw for 3,732 yards and 40 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. He was the SWAC Offensive Player of the Year and won the Deacon Jones Trophy as the top HBCU player in the country. It was a really good 2-year stretch for Jackson State. They went 11-2 in 2021 and finished ranked number 19 in the FCS Coaches Poll. Then in 2022, they finished ranked number 11 in the FCS Coaches Poll. Now, despite all of the success, Jackson State did still lose in the Celebration Bowl both seasons. Regardless, it was an impressive job by Deion Sanders, but he was ready for a new challenge. He ended up getting hired as the new head coach at Colorado, a huge jump from the SWAC to the Pac-12 and then the Big 12 after just one season. And well, with the jump, Deion brought his guys with him to Boulder, and that included Shedeur and Shiloh and even Travis Hunter, who was the #1 player in the entire class and shocked the nation when he decided to play for Deion instead of going to FSU. And of course, that worked out very well for him. He just won the Heisman Trophy and is about to go very high at the 2025 NFL Draft. The move to Colorado ended up being a good one not just for him, but also for Shedeur Sanders, who didn't take a step back despite playing against much tougher talent. All of a sudden, Colorado was one of the most exciting programs to watch in the country, and Shedeur was a big part of it. It didn't take long for everyone to start paying attention to the Buffaloes. In Shedeur's first game, he immediately put on a show, passing for a school record 510 yards and 4 touchdowns and a win against number 17 TCU. Colorado started off hot, and it was all the entire country could talk about. They beat Nebraska the next week as Shedeur threw for 2 touchdowns and rushed for 1, and they then beat Colorado State, where he had 4 touchdowns and a pick. It really was an insane start that was completely unexpected for Colorado, but they did eventually have to come back to earth, and that's exactly what happened against Oregon. Oregon was just a tank, and number 10 in the country at the time. It was a big prove-it game, and honestly, it wasn't very pretty. Colorado got waxed 42-6 and literally were down 42-0 early in the third quarter. It was ugly. Colorado had some other ranked matchups on the year, like the next week when they lost to USC and Caleb Williams in a 48-41 battle. Colorado then had 3 straight ranked matchups later in the schedule, but lost each one to number 23 UCLA, number 16 Oregon State, and number 21 Arizona. After starting 3-0, Colorado only won one more game. That came against Arizona State in an absolute nail-biter. They finished the year on a 6-game losing streak to end 4-8 and a horrible 1-8 in the Pac-12. There were definitely high hopes, but yeah, they were probably too high. Shedeur Sanders did still play fantastic though. He had 3,230 yards and 27 touchdowns with only 3 interceptions and also rushed for 4 touchdowns. Either way, it was a huge step in the right direction for Colorado, and it laid the foundation for a potentially big 2024. And that's exactly what happened. 2024 was a special year at Colorado. They did lose a tough early season game to Nebraska and Patrick Mahomes lookalike Dylan Raiola, but the Buffaloes were good. No ranked wins, but they went 9-3 and 7-2 in Big 12 play, which was obviously a big improvement, especially in conference play. Now, it probably didn't help that the Pac-12 was absolutely loaded in 2023, but their only other losses came to number 18 Kansas State and what ended up being a great game, and Colorado was actually right there, and then against Kansas later in the year. Unlike the year before, Colorado ended up making a bowl game, the Alamo Bowl, and Shedeur did end up playing, which you really don't see a ton of with solid NFL prospects, but he did play. That being said, Colorado got crushed by number 17 BYU. It was a great season for the Buffaloes, and Shedeur Sanders was even a guy with a chance to win the Heisman, but it ultimately went to his wide receiver and star cornerback Travis Hunter. Shedeur had a great season, passing for 4,134 yards, 34 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions, and he rushed for 4 additional touchdowns. It really was a remarkable season and put him well in the conversation to be one of the top quarterback prospects in the 2025 NFL Draft. Now, Shedeur Sanders is easily the most polarizing guy in the class. He was once thought to potentially be the top guy in the class, but that's definitely died out a bit, and Cam Ward is definitely the clear top guy now. The question now becomes, who will the second quarterback taken be? And it could definitely be Shedeur. The NFL has him listed as a 6.30 prospect grade, which has him listed as a guy who will eventually be a better than average starter, which I'm actually surprised it even has him listed that high. That's definitely not a slam dunk, but he is at least a better option than a lot of the middle round guys. His production at Colorado was solid, and he even finished first in production score among all quarterbacks at the combine. But the big issue was with actual talent. He ended up with the 3rd total score overall, and that's because as far as athleticism goes, he really isn't that special. He came in at 14th at the combine amongst quarterbacks, and he measures in at 6'1", 212 pounds. Shedeur is a pretty good passer when it comes from the pocket, but he isn't very mobile, which really does work against what most teams want at this point. His arm isn't really anything special either, and he has a long release too. That all being said, his confidence is high. He's known as this arrogant dude at times who wants the spotlight, and yeah, that's probably true. I mean, what would you expect from a dude whose dad's nickname is literally Primetime? But you can certainly see his confidence even on the tape. Having Travis Hunter definitely helped, but no, he wasn't a Travis Hunter merchant. Trying to figure out where Shedeur Sanders will get drafted feels pretty impossible. As a talent, he may not be a first-round pick, but it doesn't matter. He's a quarterback, which is already super overvalued in the draft. Not only that, but he has pedigree as the son of Deion Sanders, and he'd sell tickets. I do think the Giants could make some sense at number 3, depending on how they view him. They've gone out and signed both Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, but both of those guys obviously aren't long-term solutions at quarterback. The Giants will have to get a young guy at some point, and it may be later in the draft, but a name like Shedeur Sanders in the Big Apple would just be wild. I'd also say that the Browns could take Shedeur at pick number 2, but I honestly doubt it. I really don't think Deion would let his kid go to the mess that is the Cleveland Browns, but honestly, who knows? If anything, in a more realistic world, the Browns probably go Travis Hunter at 2 and then Shedeur at 33 to start the second round. Then the Raiders are the last top 10 pick that would make a ton of sense at pick number 6. They traded for Geno Smith and signed him to a 2-year deal, but they need a young quarterback, and Shedeur honestly would probably thrive somewhere like Vegas. The draft is a crapshoot sometimes, and it's hard to evaluate, but here's one thing we know for sure. Shedeur Sanders is one of the biggest names in the entire draft, and whether he goes in the first round or day 2, or if he's good or stinks, people will definitely be watching.